Everything I could ever want in a breakfast sandwich. Free of any ultra-processed ingredients, easy to meal prep, and addictive in flavor. It's no wonder I've fallen in love with this recipe. And with some basic ingredients, so can you. What I have here is the base of the high-protein bagels that I've been absolutely obsessed with lately. I like to use both plain all-purpose flour and whole wheat flour to add some more fiber and lighten the glycemic load, but all-purpose works just fine on its own. First, I'll start by setting the oven to 375 Fahrenheit or 190 C.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
And I'll move on to mixing the dry ingredients. If you would rather just use all-purpose flour, see the note in the recipe below the video for measurements. 60 grams or about half a cup of whole wheat flour and 260 grams or about 2 cups and 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. To help these bagels rise, some baking powder is in need. 20 grams or 4 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon per bagel will do the trick, and 6 grams, roughly 3/4 teaspoons of salt. A quick whisk will help avoid any lumps of baking powder in the final product. Trust me, it's worth it. Tying all this together is easily one of the most versatile protein sources known to mankind. And no, the yogurt doesn't give the bagel a tangy flavor. About 380 grams or roughly 1 2/3 cups. And I mix with a spoon until a crumbly dough starts to form. Turn it out on the counter and begin forming the dough. At first, some parts will be stickier than others. I just roll around the dough and the dry stuff to manage the stickiness a bit. And if it ends up being a bit too wet, I sprinkle on some more flour. What I'm looking for is a somewhat smooth ball with a little spring to it. If I have a lumpy dough at this point, I just let it sit for a few minutes before kneading some more to smooth it out. The rest gives the gluten more time to form. I split the dough into 4 roughly equal parts, each one weighing about 180 grams, but you can just eyeball it. Grab some parchment paper and sheet pan and set aside. I'm not sure if this is traditional for bagel making, but it's how I like doing it. Dust on a little flour, pinch a little hole into the center of the dough ball, and wheel the dough around my fingers. I further shape the bagel with my fingers and palm, working my way around the bagel, pinching it as if making a coiled pot. The goal is twofold: make this look like a bagel and make it look good, like a bagel. About a 2-inch or 5-centimeter inner diameter is what you're looking for, but perfection is for people with time. Toss it on a pan with some parchment and repeat. Now I'll whip up some egg wash with 1 whole egg and about a tablespoon of water. If you don't have a kitchen brush thing, I've found that using a paper towel works about the same for this. And if that's not barbaric enough for you, you can just use your bare hand.
Brother, ugh.
No, seriously, it actually works great. Here's the part where I really turn this plain eggy dough thing into a bagel. The seasoning. Not just any everything bagel seasoning will do. This brand, which I'm out of, is easily the best I've ever had. But don't worry, I figured out the perfect ratio of bagel-y seasoning ingredients to match this one that I enjoy so much. You can find that recipe in the description as well. Sprinkle, and toss in the oven for 20 to 24 minutes or until golden brown and cook through. 24 minutes has been spot on for me. And now I turn my attention to the inside of the sandwich, the toppings. Making the sausage patties is like making the bagel, except it's even easier. 1 pound of 93.7 ground turkey goes into a bowl. If you know, you know. Along with 6 grams or 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 grams or half a tablespoon of rubbed sage, and white pepper, not black pepper. Both come from the same plant, but white pepper offers a hotter, spicier, more pure flavor. It won't work to substitute. 3 grams or 1 teaspoon, and an optional pinch of crushed red pepper flakes to up the spice a bit more. Mix with my hands until I've managed to get the spices pretty evenly distributed. This is way easier to do if you use a potato masher instead, but I didn't realize that until after recording this. Leaving this in the fridge for about 10 minutes will help the salt draw out some more water and make the meat less sticky. The timer on the bagels is almost up, and
Oh no.
a few more minutes at the right temp and it should be fine. Who said baking is a science? While I'll let those cool, I'll set a pan or skillet on medium and start forming the sausage patties. Look, I know, lean meats are not meant for sausage making. The fat in sausage is usually what bears the flavor, but the technique I use to cook these makes them super juicy, and the fat in the eggs and cheese ends up being more than enough to satisfy. Each patty is gently squished to shape, making sure the center is thinner than the rim. I then plop those into the skillet, and I like to crack on some black pepper as they cook for 2 to 3 minutes on the first side. But instead of timing it, I just look for these 2 clear indicators that the patties are ready to be flipped. Color has reached about halfway up the rim of the patty, and a pool of juices has started to form on the surface. With the color and juices, these are ready to be flipped. About 2 minutes later, and these patties are looking a little dry. The water, maybe 1/4 cup, is going to steam, and some of it will get absorbed into the patties, resulting in a juicy sausage. Be careful when covering with a lid or foil, as steam can cause serious burns.
Cheese.
This kind, or whatever kind. I like this stuff because it's pre-sliced. and I cover the patties back up for another 30 seconds or so. 30 seconds steam, 30 seconds cheese, and now it's egg time. 2 eggs per sandwich is the goal here. 1 more egg to the other I used on the bagels, plus about a half to 1 tablespoon of water. Of course, omelets are better than scrambled eggs when put on a sandwich, so I add whatever green thing I'm feeling to the eggs. This time, it's jalapeno. This process is much easier in a non-stick pan, but I guess I was wanting a challenge. A pinch of salt to taste. What I should have done here is clean off the pan and re-season it with a bit of oil before pouring the eggs in. Nonetheless, the crispier bits will add flavor. I just scrape them off and add a touch of oil and rub it in with a paper towel, giving me a semi-non-stick surface. The next set of 2 eggs goes in, again on medium-low heat, and a pinch of salt. What I'm looking for is a bit of bubbling around the edges and for the eggs to sort of thicken up. Now there's no way I'm going to get a perfect fold here, but all I need is for the egg to hold together well enough. I take my time with pulling in the edges and shaping the eggs. There. Almost perfect. A little cleanup, and the oil wouldn't be necessary if you're using a non-stick pan. Also, I have done this before with all 8 eggs at once. It's a bit more challenging to get the shape right, but it's all the same technique. Notice here how I establish an edge by holding my spatula to the egg. Pressing down helps the uncooked egg flow into the cracks and seal things up. If a spongy egg texture doesn't bother you and you want less active cooking time, you could always opt to bake your eggs. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to share how I do that, and I will pin the recipe in the comments down below. The bagels have cooled and have a nice texture to them. There's only one problem. They could use a toasting. Optionally, of course. Under the broiler they go, and out they come once they are ready for assembly. You can eat these every day of the week like I have been for the last 3 months, or you can freeze them for about as long. I just wrap each one in aluminum foil and place them in the freezer overnight. Once they have fully hardened, I put them in a Ziploc bag and remove any excess air to prevent freezer burn. Thaw in the fridge overnight and microwave on high for 2 minutes prior to eating. Just like my other favorite breakfast recipe, the longer these sit in the freezer, the more flavor they develop. Check that one out next if you prefer burritos for breakfast.